Exercise 6. In this exercise, we look at ProE's capabilities, at least the fundamental capabilities, on how to create a two-dimensional layout or drawing. As you can see up on the screen, our intent is to take this bell housing and make several views. We'll first start off by making a front, top, and a right view. We'll bring in a template, or a sheet format as it's called, and we'll go in and we'll also learn how to project additional views, create section views inside the drawing, create detail view as well as an auxiliary view, and we'll also look at an isometric view. Once we have the views done, we'll go ahead then look how to add annotations and dimensions. And we'll look at a couple ways to do that. As well as we'll look how to edit the template itself and put text in and draw lines for the border and such. So to begin, let's first go by opening up the part. Not a bad idea to go ahead and find under your ProEngineer Wildfire files, you'll find something called Exercise 6. Open that up, it's a part file. When open, Exercise 6 will look like this. It's just a simple part, and we're going to go ahead and look at how to create a drawing for it. So just with it open, and you don't necessarily have to do it with it open, there's an option actually to insert different types of parts and assemblies into your drawing. But this is just one way we'll explore as a fundamental lesson. So go to File, New, and now select Drawing. Go ahead and open it. When you select Drawing, you'll have some options. You have the default model, which in this case, we have Exercise 6 up, so that's what it's selected for us. However, you could go to Browse and search for a different part or assembly that you might want to create a drawing of. Next thing on this new drawing options box is we have the ability to use a template. ProE gives you some generic templates. They're pretty much blank, but they're at least to size, like A, B, C, as well as ANSI and ISO standard template sizes. It's up to you though to add in the additional title block and the border yourself, which we'll explore in this lesson. We could do empty with format or just empty. We'll actually use the existing template that's in there, and we'll select the C size, the C drawing. Hit OK. Okay. Now let me just size this to my view screen. Just by grabbing the corners, and we could actually see the drawing file put in automatically for us. ProEngineer automatically put in the front, the top, and the right view. You could do this automatically, or actually if we had selected a different option it wouldn't have done it at all, and we could insert it separately. However, first thing we want to do is we will actually look at how to move these around on our template. What you're looking at with these edges, these white lines, that is not any sort of drawn border per se, but that is the border of your actual C-size sheet in this case. That does not print out. So it's up to you to create that in this case, but we'll do that in a second. First thing I'd like to show you though is up here we have some tools, and one of them that's pretty important is this allows or disallows the movement of drawing views with the mouse. Let's go ahead and turn it on so we can actually move these things, because with it off we can't move them. And if we click on the front view, this is technically our master view, and once it turns red, actually let's turn it off. There we go. So you might have to flip it on or off. In this case, we wanted it off. And now I could actually move the view just by clicking on it. It turns red, and then I could grab it and drag it down. And what I want to do here is I want to make enough room so I could put an additional view up here, like a section view. We'll do a projected view, an auxiliary view, things like that. But you could see right off the bat, what you're seeing here isn't always an exact representation of what the drawing is going to look like. Be aware of that. You see like two different colors. It might be difficult to make out on the screen here, but there's a light gray for these inside lines, which are basically hidden lines, but they don't show up here as that. And you see these white edges, which are actually the object lines. if you really want to see what the true representation of this drawing is going to look like, there's a neat little trick. They don't have a print preview in Pro Engineer Wildfire 4, but you do have this, which is to make a PDF. You just click Save as PDF and just use the defaults, and then you'll actually get a better look at what it's going to look like. And here you could actually see, let's shrink it down, this is the actual image of what they're going to look like, and the hidden lines really look like hidden lines. Your text, remember, will not look the proper font. There's some other differences like that, but once you do this like PDF reader, you'll be able to see exactly what you're going to get. So I just closed that. Moving on, let's you can see how I moved it. I just clicked on it, and then you click with the left mouse button, hold it down, and drag wherever you want it. And the first thing we'll do is we'll bring in a section view of this top view that we have. Now, section views can be done two ways. You could do it inside the actual 3D model, and you could select a plane and tell it to use that plane, or actually a datum, as a section and set that up in advance, and then it comes up here automatically. Or you could do it in the drawing. Some people prefer one way or the other. I kind of like just doing it in the drawing here. It's a little bit, for me, just keep it all one place. So what you might want to do, we will have to still use a datum. So it's not a bad idea to make sure your datums up here are turned on. And if you scroll in and out, it will refresh the screen so you could actually see the datum. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to Insert up at the very top, Drawing View, and you will see that there's General, Projection, Detailed, Auxiliary, and Revolve. Let's look at a projection view. Make sure you select the view you want to have projected, and then just drag it up where you want it. And let's scroll out a little bit. We'll click to drop it right there. Now in this case, it comes in, it looks shaded. That's okay. What we want to do is we want to edit it. To do this, it's just very simple. Just double click on it with the left mouse button, and you'll get this drawing view information that appears. Now we have view type, and you can see it's set to projection. There's other options in there to change it if you want. Visible area, we're not going to really look at that, but there's half views, full views, partial views, broken views. You could adjust the scale. And then as well as here we have sections. This is one of the things that we're really looking for here. There's going to be a couple other options that we need to address as well, but let's get this taken care of first. So if we select 2D cross section, you'll see that it's blank. If we had created any cross sections inside the actual 3D model like I mentioned before, you would see them listed here. In this case, we want to add to this list, which is empty right now, so we click on this little green plus symbol. And now we could go ahead, there actually is one saved in the model, that's okay. Let's create a new one actually. And that was labeled A, so I'm going to hit Create New. And a little menu manager pops up on the right hand side. And you could do a planar or offset. We want a planar, and we'll hit Done. Actually, I think I missed a step here. Let's try this. Oh, and I'm sorry, I did not. Up at the top, you'll see in this dialog box, it'll say Enter Name for the cross section. We already have one called A. Let's give this one B. And hit the green check mark up here. And now you get another menu manager option and a select. So let's move this out of the way, and we want to select a plane. We could make a new one, new datum, but we'll select plane, and then we select the plane we want it to base off of. In this case, the front plane, which runs through the center horizontally here. So if I select that, now that's what it will use. Let's hit apply, and now we can see a cross section that appears. We're not done yet though. There are some additional view states that we might want to address. Like actually want to go to View Display, and under Display Style, rather than follow the environment, let's go to No Hidden Lines, and then under Tangent Edge, perhaps we want to see tangent edges with a phantom line. So I'll hit Phantom. That's the little dashed lines. And let's go to the origin alignment. There's nothing that we really need to change in any of these. We could go ahead and just hit Apply and hit Close when you're ready. Now you might still see that the planes are displayed. To turn the planes off, just click on it up here. and then scroll to refresh on your mouse, and you'll see it's disappeared. The text that appeared, we named it B, so it's B-B, and we do not see the arrows here. To bring the arrows up, click on the section view just one time with the left mouse button, release it, then right-click over it, and you will see that you have different options in here, lots of options, and one of them is called Add Arrows. Go ahead and select Add Arrows, and you'll see this little dialog box appear. Just select the view where you want the arrow, and the arrows will appear. Now, if you don't like the placement of the actual arrowheads, just click on them. Make sure you're on the arrowhead, hold the left mouse button down, and drag them. Now you could drag them in or out, left or right. Let's drag it right about there, and then do the same over here. And there is our section view. Let's move on to seeing how a detail view is made. A detail view, again, we go to Insert, Drawing View, Detailed. You'll get the selection option that appears. Click somewhere on the model that you want to show a detail view in the vicinity where a center point basically would exist. So right about here I want to capture a detail view, so I'll click and I'll get a little red X. Now it even says up here, select the spline, and without intersecting the spline, go ahead and draw one. So we'll just click and kind of eyeball a surrounding area, and you could close it if you want or just get close to it, and then middle mouse click on your scroll button. Don't scroll it, just click on it once to complete it. And you'll see it turns into a circle, and you'll see detail A. Let's scroll out a little bit and click where we want to place the center of the detail view, which we could do right over here. And there's our detail view. It automatically scaled it according to some settings in Pro E, which I'll show you in a little bit. In this case, we might want to actually change this information. Maybe we don't want it scaled to 0.667. What we can do, we could actually click on the detail view with the left mouse button to select it, and then right click over it, and then we'll get different options like properties. And under properties, you'll see there's different options to select from. One of them is scale, and we have custom scale set to 0.667. Let's just change it to full, in other words 1, and hit apply, and then close. So it's basically full scale at this point. Now if you wanted to change the cross-hatching pattern, you could actually click on it so it's selected with the red, and that's the left mouse button, then release it, then right click on it and do the same thing. You could go ahead and you could go to properties, and you could see there's a menu manager that appears, and there's the X component or X area, the hatch, spacing, angle, offset, line style, all these neat things. So let's, for example, the spacing, it's kind of spread out there. Let's go to spacing, and let's make it double. That's too big. Let's make it half. You could keep clicking on half and it'll keep dividing it by halves. Or you could type in an explicit value at the bottom. You'll notice you can also change the angle, so you can have it at 45, 60, 90, 120, whatever degrees you want. That's very helpful when you're working in assemblies and you want to change the hatch pattern per part. Also the line style. But that's pretty much it. Let's actually, while we're here, hit done. And there it is. Let's scroll and zoom in and out. Okay, let's look at another type of view. Let's move down to the front view that we have here, and let's address this. Let's make an auxiliary view. Go to Insert, Drawing View, and you'll find Auxiliary. Select Auxiliary, and select the edge of the flange. And you'll see it will project off of that edge, and we could put it right about here by clicking. Again, the line style isn't what we want, so we just double click on the view. And under View Display, we could select Display Style, No Hidden, for no hidden lines. Now tangent edges, let's look at the effect that we have here. Rather than default, which is solid, we could actually select centerline, or maybe if you were using centerline already, select something else. As you can see here, this is a preview of what it looks like. Let's just show you if you had none, or if you wanted it solid. Solid isn't always the best option in some shops because it looks like there's something machined there possibly. It could be a little misleading, but nonetheless, it still could be used as a standard. I prefer to go with the centerline type. Okay, let's add another type of view. And over here you'll see up at the top there's this general view. Click on that little red arrow and select where you'd like to drop this new view. And in this case, we see it's an isometric view. We could use a trimetric, or a user-defined would be one that you could customize. But we want an isometric view. It's perfect. There's also ones listed from your view names, which are actually inside the views and were discussed, I believe, in exercise 2 or 3 that we did. But you can open the part up by itself and create them. But here we are. As far as the scale, we'll leave that alone. But again, go to View Display. Instead of Follow Environment, select No Hidden. And again, use center lines for tangent edges if you like. It's up to you. Hit Apply and then Close. So these are some of the general views that we've learned today inside Pro Engineer Wildfire. Let's move on now to the second half of this exercise, which is adding dimensions and annotations. Now to add dimensions and annotations, let's zoom up to one of the views, in this case the front view. And now you'll find there's really 2 ways to add dimensions in here. You could add intelligent dimensions, dimensions that could actually be modified from the drawing. This is actually not a bad idea in terms of if a manager, if you have someone who double checks your drawings, a manager per se, could actually open the drawing and make modifications to the part in the event that a change needs to be made versus having to open the part itself. And in fact, by changing these dimensions, we'll actually change the part or the assembly. So that could be a good thing, might be a bad thing. Maybe you don't want someone to have that type of capability or power to modify something in the event that someone doesn't know what they're doing and accidentally makes a change that you didn't want. But let's look at this way first. So there's this little flashlight. Click on that. And we see Show and Erase. And you want basically the basic dimensions. And what these are, what you're looking at, are all dimensions and annotations that could have been added into the 3-dimensional model, like surface finish symbols or weldment symbols and things like that, datums. If there are none in the model, then you could just bring up the regular dimensions, which that's this one right here versus inspection or reference dimensions. So just make sure that's selected. Now, do you want to show it by the entire part in the view or show all? In other words, you're going to have a lot of dimensions that were used to generate that model appear all at once. So you want to be a little bit careful because you could have a cluster of dimensions that could be difficult to siphon through. In this case, what we'll do, we'll actually bring in feature and view. This is kind of a nice in between. You could select, for example, if I just wanted this part here, this section, I could click on it and it will bring up all the relevant dimensions specific if we were looking at it from this view perspective, which things that were drawn basically on the front plane, because this is the front view. Now what we can do is actually, that's pretty good. If we want to bring in a few more, you could click on different things. I think that's all about I want to bring in, because otherwise it gets a little cluttered. So we'll hit OK and we'll hit close here. Now what you can do with these is you could actually move them around by clicking on them. You click on them once, they turn red, and you could grab them and drag them and relocate them. None of these in particular interest me, so I'll take out a couple of them. What you can do, you could erase them. You could click on them once, and then right click. That's a left click first, and then release it, then right click over it, and you'll have the option to erase. And then click somewhere and you'll see it will disappear. Doesn't actually delete it out of the model, it's just getting it out of the view for you. Now some of these dimensions you can see you have the dog leg effect, which is nice. This one we actually want, we'll drag that over here, and you could lay them out how you'd like to see them. Now this 34 degrees, maybe that's better served in a section view perhaps. Here's a neat little trick. Click on it with one left click, release it, then right mouse button click on it, and you'll get the option to move item to view. Select that, and then zoom out, and click the view you want to drop it in, and it automatically drops it to it. Now be aware that it might not always be successful in the event that it wasn't a view that was parallel to that. If it was a perpendicular view, it might be somewhat of a challenge to display that because these are real dimensions. If I double click on it, I could actually change the value and it will update the model. Okay. There are some other options. If you click on it, there's the ability to change the arrows and do a lot of fun things. So flip arrows, just by clicking on it, then right-clicking on it, get that option. Okay, now the other method, let's look over here. Let's say we want to get a radius dimension. We could go and up at the top we have create standard dimensions. Select that. You'll see that there's different types you could add: center, midpoint, on surface, intersect. We just want on an entity. And select where you want to put it. In this case, I'll put it on this radius. And then middle mouse click. If you have a middle mouse button, click on it, or if you have a scroll, click on it. Don't actually scroll it, just click one time, and it will drop the dimension and give us our radius in that case. We can also do this. Let's drop one over here. Click on that. Click again to drop it. And you could do lengths of lines, heights. They could be linear, and they could be modified to show diameters or radii, things like that. If you want to add a note to these, you just simply hit return, and you could click on it, then right click. And there is an edit value. Actually, we don't want edit value. You won't be able to edit these ones because they are reference dimensions versus the other dimensions that are real that we dropped in with that little flashlight tool. Those can be edited. Okay, let's click on this, right click on it, and we see properties. And in the properties here, we could go to dimension text and add a note to it. So in this case, we could say, I believe there were 7, oh actually, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 7 holes. So we could go ahead and put in 7 places or 7x, whatever you want to use as your standard, and hit OK. So you could drop notes in on those as well. All right, some of the properties that are set up in here, where would you find the heart of this, where all the dimensioning standards need to be changed, inches or metric, or the font sizes? Well, first of all, as I told you before, that these fonts that are displayed here are not true representations of what's going to print out. Again, the trick to doing that is clicking on, to preview it, is click on this little PDF. Hit OK, and we take a look at how it's going to look. And you can see it looks very nice, actually. Whatever font it's using, we could change it or change the arrowhead styles, could do a lot of neat things. So let's look at that. You simply right click away from any of the part views, and you see that there's properties. And on the menu manager, you have drawing model, drawing options, tolerance standards. Let's go to drawing options. And you'll see that everything that you would want to change or that you could possibly change is located in here. Some of it's a little confusing at first, but as you work with them more and more, you'll see you could change these values, like broken view offset. It says here that the offset is set to 1 inch. We could go ahead and change that to maybe 0.5. There's lots and lots of options to choose from, and you could customize it as much as you want. Also, drawing models. Let's click on that. All models or delete models, different things like that. You could, or replace things. So there's lots of different options. And when you're done, just hit done, return. Okay, let's draw a border in here. Now, before I start drawing a border, there are these two little options here. One of them is to enable sketch chaining, and the other one is to remember parametric sketch references. Both are very helpful, especially if you want to make sure your lines are horizontal and vertical or straight or attached to different entities. So I like turning both of them on. And here's how it works. We're going to draw a border surrounding this. I could go to the line tool. We click on line, and this references dialog box appears. First of all, let's go ahead and start drawing. You know what? Yeah, we'll click here and draw across. And then down, you'll see that this is perpendicular. You see the little perpendicular symbol in red to the right. And we could snap to these things. And this is because we activated those two little icons there. And then when you're done with this square or rectangle, middle click. Now if you want to add a little title block here, you could go down below here and click and continue to add some of these things. Make sure you watch the reference information for the like parallel, perpendicular symbols, things like that, to ensure that things are straight. In this case, I had a bit of an issue. It's beyond what I wanted, so I'm actually going to go ahead and hit close for a second and middle mouse click and go to the select. I want to get rid of that. I could actually go in and add a relation, but I'm going to delete that. Let's try this one more time. Let's click on the line and show you a little thing here. If you want to add a reference to a line or something that you draw, you could click on it and then go ahead and hit OK here. Oh, might have to add a reference there. Click on that point by clicking on that little arrowhead. And now click on it again or hit OK. And now you could snap to this and you'll see you could get a line to both. And unfortunately, one of my lines wasn't straight to begin with. I could have actually added a relationship early on, but it's a little tricky to get used to at first. But nonetheless, you could add that in. Now to add a note, you could go ahead and there are actually, there's a note, insert note tool here, which is this little A. Click on it, and you get some options with, you could add a leader, no leader, meaning that that's an arrowhead. And let's go ahead and just hit make note. Click where you want to drop it. You'll see a whole text symbol library. And go ahead and up here you get to type in what you want. And then hit the green check mark. Click where you want to drop it, and there it goes. And then hit done and return. And there's your note. And it could be moved by clicking on it once with the left mouse button and then dragging. And that finishes exercise 6.